Good morning. Welcome to a special episode of Let's Go. For the past 6 months, we've been preaching survival and thrival, helping the leaders of middle market companies make the right moves to come out of COVID stronger than before. But we've officially shelved the survival and thrival mantra, and we're focused squarely on the future, helping leaders build kick-ass companies. We've adopted a no excuses mindset because no matter what the world throws at us, we've got to find a way. We're all about offense and a let's go mentality. So what a perfect segue to my guest this morning, which is Mark Moses, who is the epitome of Let's Go. Mark is the author of the best-selling business book, Make Big Happen, and he's a CEO and founding partner at CEOCI International, which is the leading coaching firm for growth-minded CEOs and entrepreneurs. Mark was previously CEO at Platinum Capital Group, which was in the top 10 in the Inc. 500, which was successfully sold in 2006. He started his career with a bang while he was still in college by founding, growing, and selling a painting business with over 250 locations. Mark's a fellow YPOer, and we go way back to 2008, where we met at a father-son YPO retreat that he was chairing in Southern California. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today.
Kurt, thanks for having me. Great to be here with you.
So, Mark, I usually give an update from the CEO forums, but you've got so much to add from all the CEOs that you coach and your firm coaches from across the globe. But I would like to, so I won't go into the details about the CEO forums, but I do want to start with some macroeconomic highlights. No matter who you talk to about the Q4 for 2020 or what 2021 looks like, there's a wide range of expectations. Either the apocalypse is going to be upon us and everything's going to go into deep recession, or we're going to be making hay for the next 18 months because the economy is going to be so vibrant. The truth is, no one really knows. And as I said in the opening, we don't need to know what the future holds because there's no excuses. We've got to figure it out. We've got to have that type of mentality. In fact, I think I stole that from you on one of the CEOCI International calls I was on a few weeks ago. In addition, it feels like there's been a positive momentum shift over the past 60 days or so. Like people are finally figuring out how to live in this new normal. So let's start there, Mark. You have your finger on the pulse of hundreds of clients and CEOs from across the globe. What are you hearing about your peers and about their businesses, and are they seeing a momentum shift?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like the way you teed that up as well, Kurt. Macroeconomically, it's really interesting. In the U.S., I'll begin there. There is a lot of fear of the unknown as it relates to the election. And there's a lot of hubbub about it, and pretty soon the election will be over. The election will be over, but the results probably won't be in for a while. So exactly. I'm not sure what that will bring. Yet that too will pass, and then we need to get the show to go on. There's no choice. The show will go on, and we'll have to deal with whatever the outcome is. What we have found, and you've attended some of our Wine and Learn events with CEOs from around the world, when we did two polls over the last month. One of the polls was, are you better off now than before COVID started? I don't know if you were on that for one of those when we did it. The first time, 98% of the respondents said they're better off now than they were before, which was a ridiculously high number. It was only one person that said they weren't better off. And then we did it again. We felt that, hey, maybe that was just luck of the draw of who attended that night. And the second time we did it, 86% said they're better off now than they were before it started. And that felt more realistic to me from all the conversations I've been having with our clients around the world. And I do a check-in with each client personally. And the first question I ask them is, what has been the impact of COVID on your business? And it's really interesting. For many, the answer is, well, not really much. For many. Now, some will say, yeah, it was really tough. My business was decimated. Sales went down 30%, 60%, 100%, but I've sorted all that out now, and now I'm rocking again. And for many of them that sales went to zero or terrible, they actually like where they are today better than they were before. And if I could give you an example, one of our clients, a very large retailer around the U.S. with over 1,000 locations. And despite their store traffic being down over 30% still, the people that come in are buying. They're not coming in just to look like they once did before. Additionally, we've adjusted the labor model that's more commensurate with sales. And actually, net margins are up meaningfully. So go big picture. Traffic is down approximately 30%, but profit is up meaningfully as a result of adjusting and pivoting that way. And I could go on with this with other examples, but generally my conclusion to this is there's a way to figure this out if you want to figure it out. If you're not going to wallow in your own misery, get over it. It's time to move on. You can sort this out and figure out how to win regardless of what you do, unless maybe you're in the live events business and you haven't figured out how to pivot to online events.
You know, I love the way you phrased that with the your example about the labor. I've seen so many people, and let me step back. With the pandemic, it really caused people to, it expedited bad situations. A lot of us had bloated business models. We had challenges with our business models. COVID forced us to make some of those operational changes, whether it's efficiency in labor or efficiency in production or whatever the case may be, to help us. So it has been a blessing, if you will, for the people who have had that mindset. So
you're making a great point, Kurt, because in the best of times, many companies do get bloated or fat, and you can hide a lot of stuff when everything's really good. And the economy's been really good for a long period of time. Business has been doing very well. Yet in the good times, and this happened to me when I was building my business too, that you get fat and happy and you get loose with expenses and loose in lots of areas when things are really good. Yet this has caused people to operate better businesses because they had to.
Yep. Hey, let me take a step back, Mark. I know I gave a little bit of a background on you in the early part, but tell me the elevator spiel for CEO Coaching International, so our viewers have a better perspective of what you guys do.
Sure. Thanks, Bert. We coach 340 companies around the world. We clients are in over 40 countries in 55 different industries. Average revenues for our clients at the end of 2019 was just over 70 million in revenue with 5.5 million in EBITDA. Our indicators, what we're seeing is a lot of clients that we've brought on in 2020 are larger businesses. So we see that number when we report again after the first of the year. I'm sure we're going to see that number climb again.
Awesome. Well, so you've got a full perspective of everything going on, not just in the U.S., but across the world. Let me brag on you guys for just a minute. You guys were at the forefront during early days in March and April of helping provide free resources to entrepreneurs and CEOs around the world. You also providing free coaching sessions to folks. Just out of curiosity, how many coaching sessions do you estimate or do you know that you guys provided over the last 9 months?
Yeah, it's a great question. We didn't know what to do at the time, but our 32 coaches said, let's help anybody that needs help. We'll do what we have to. The 32 of us, and we have time, we can do this. So we've done over 650 of these for CEOs or entrepreneurs around the world struggling to figure it out. And it's been great. It's been hugely impactful to the people that we've gotten to touch. And also, you do some good comes back your way. We were surprised that any of them would become clients, but there have been many of them that actually, after we did those a couple of free sessions, actually became clients of the firm and are super happy clients with us today.
I love it. The world has a way of karmically paying things forward when you do good things. So I'm a walking testimony for that, and also really appreciate what you guys are doing. So, hey, let's shift back to the future. We're in the fourth quarter, and as we said, we're seeing some level of normalcy. What types of things should we be doing to finish the year well, and also set up ourselves for 2021? Because in the words of a well-known football coach, we can't let 2020 beat us twice.
Love it. I love the way you said that. So I think now's the perfect time to get the annual planning session in the calendar where every company ought to review this. What went right this year? What went wrong? What did we learn this year so we don't make the same mistakes again? How did we do compared to how we said we would do on our goals? How did we do compared to how we said we would do on the specific and measurable activities that we're keeping score on that we said would lead us to the outcome that we wanted? What are the biggest opportunities in front of us? What are the biggest challenges in front of us? If we were to start the business all over again, what are we doing today that we wouldn't do? What are we not doing that we would do? And knowing what we know about us, how would we compete with us? What are our goals for 3 years from now? What are our goals for 2021? What are the specific and measurable activities we will keep score on that'll drive that outcome, and who owns them? Where do we want to be by the end of Q1 of 2021? And what are the specific and measurable activities we're keeping score on by person that will drive the outcome that we want? Sorry for the long rant, but that's a best practice that every firm in the world ought to be doing here as we approach the end of the year.
Well, on some level, it sounds so simple. On other levels, it sounds so complicated. And I'll just make a plug for your book, Make Big Happen. We'll put a link to that out there. It's a very relatively quick but very powerful read. It's got all these things scheduled out. But in the book, you talk about not just the scorecard, but making it almost a scoreboard, if you will. In fact, you use the analogy, you go to a professional sporting event and the referees tell you that the scoreboard's broken. They're going to keep the score themselves. You'd lose some enthusiasm in the arena, and you would lose some enthusiasm from your team if we put it in the business perspective. Most people understood your analogy, but not all, because you used hockey instead of football as your analogy. Your Canadian roots came through. Here in Texas, we only understand football. So I'll tell them, if you had the football referee, keep the score on the field. But I love the analogy, and I love the way using the scoreboard to show what you're trying to accomplish and how you're doing.
Yeah, imagine walking into anybody's building, assuming we are back in buildings again, or when you plug into your Zoom call and all of a sudden the scoreboard is updated every time. It has tremendous impact on, you can see who's winning, you can see where we're not winning, and then you can talk about how do we get back on track so we're all winning, and we're winning in each area that we wanted to win in.
Yep. Well, I want to ask you a few questions about the scorecard itself, but let me take a step back. And if we're looking at bigger picture, you've used the words, I believe, know what you want to achieve. So it's your vision. Tell me how important that is as we're trying to, in the middle of the mess and chaos that is 2020.
Yeah. So I think it's a good time to really reflect upon what success is for you as a leader by when. So, for example, you and I are probably close in age, and we could push out to, as the leader of your business, what's success at 60 years old? What do you really want? How do you want to be spending your time and envision that life for yourself, and then translate that into your business? So I hear often from leaders saying, I wish I had more time to do what I want to do. And when I'm X years old, I'll finally be able to do it. Well, why can't you do it now? Why can't you live the life that you really want today? And then it comes back to, typically, we're sucked into the whirlwind of the day-to-day in our businesses. How do we extract ourselves from that and truly live the life that we want? Well, it typically comes back to having the right people that you trust, that live your values, in the right seats to ensure that that happens. So, for example, for a lot of firms, it's upgrading their C-suite. And, for example, having a proper COO in place, having a proper head of sales in place, having a proper CFO in place. And I like to ask people to think about, if you were to redraw your organizational chart for 3 years from now, as an example, would you enthusiastically hire each of those people and put them in those roles? Let me ask the question a little bit different. Assuming we're at, let's just say your firm today is a $100 million firm and you'd like to be a $200 million firm 3 years from now. Are the people that you have in place, do you believe they're the people that they're going to take you to that 200 million? Most of the time, they're not. So now you have the difficult decision to make. What do I do? They're good people. They've been with me for a long time. We're like family. We trust each other. We live our values. But there's no way they're going to achieve the outcome that we need to achieve. So now you have a conundrum to deal with. And that might be where you can come in. Your firm is, I know we have sent, I looked it up this morning, we've sent you over 60 referrals, Kurt, of clients of ours. So thank you very much for helping our clients upgrade their talent and bring some of the best people on, especially in the C-suite, because you hire great leaders in the C-suite, they can really help. They'll take care of what's beneath them in terms of putting the right people in the right seats as they top grade their own organizations.
I think, first of all, thank you for that. And we take all those seriously, and we know we're an extension of you. So we appreciate that relationship. And I like the way you asked. I think it's Vern Harnish who asked the question, knowing today what you know about your organization, would you enthusiastically rehire that same person for the same role? It doesn't mean they weren't a solid performer for past company. It doesn't mean that they don't have a role with future company. It just means that they may not be in that CFO role for future company. Maybe they're a very solid tactical accountant and they need to be a controller to handle accounting, but you need a forward-looking strategic CFO for a future state company.
Yeah, I can give you a couple of examples of that. One of them is right in your state. I said to one of my clients there, hey man, you need to upgrade your finance talent. Your organization's getting too big. You've outgrown her. And he said, well, what do you mean? She is the best finance person I've ever worked with. Well, how old is she? Well, she's 26. Well, how old are you? Well, I'm 27. Okay. Well, I'm telling you, that's not the case. And, but it took a while for him to get his arms around this, almost 2 years to get his arms around making that decision. The new person that we hired, he said to me, I wish you would have convinced me earlier. Now I finally understand what you meant. And I can give you another example. There's a client of mine that grew from 80 million in revenue to almost 2 billion in revenue. And along the way, we sold the business 2 times. And so he still owns a meaningful part of the business. And we like putting up a photo when we all get together. What the organization looked like after the second sale, which wasn't that long ago, and what it looks like today. The only 2 people in the photo that are the same are he and me, his coach. Everybody else at the senior team, it's not that they're not in the organization anymore. They still could be in the organization, but they're not in that C-suite driving the bus for the organization.
I think that's a very important nuance, Mark. I use the example for entrepreneurs, and you and I have very similar client bases. I say, look, if you've got a leadership team of 5 and you're all going through this for the first time, growing from 10 to $100 million, you're going to learn a boatload of lessons the hard way. But if you can intersperse some of those, 5 people, maybe 2 or 3 that have done it before, you're gonna get there faster because you're gonna leverage the lessons that they've learned in a previous career, and you're not going to have to learn them yourself. So it sounds like we're on the same page there.
I like to say that I'm old and I'm tired, and if I were to do it all over again, no, with all the mistakes that I made plenty over the years. I'd hire the best talent in the world, put them in the best seats, the ones that are most impactful, and make sure we're aligned with our vision, make sure we're aligned with our values, and then let them do their job.
Yep. So we talked earlier about getting the right seat, people in the right seats on the bus and getting the wrong people off the bus. I think that's Jim Collins who talks about that. You mentioned the other day, you specifically used the words, have the courage to do that. And I'd like to dig into that a little bit. Obviously, it's not easy to make some of those changes, but talk to me about CEOs and entrepreneurs having the courage to have those conversations and making those decisions.
Yeah, since you mentioned Jim Collins, Kurt, I'd like to go back to the only way to deliver to the people achieving is not to burden them with the people that aren't achieving. Because if you think about it, your A players know that you tolerate in some roles B players or even C players. Well, that's not a great way to upgrade the whole team or have that build that belief that we can tackle and achieve anything. So going back to courage, and that's one of the values in my firm is having courage. In order to putting the right people on your team is tough. It's tough because I remember I went to a YPO event in Montreal, the Global Networking Summit a couple of years ago. And I was doing a talk in the room for a bunch of YPOers. And one person said to me, I need help in my sales role, my sales leadership. I'm paying this guy a lot of money. I'm paying him $250,000 base and $150,000 bonus. Okay. And if you had somebody like the absolute rock star, you said, wait a minute, Mark, I can't afford that. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just play along for a moment. Let's just do the math. What would that rock star, you at the absolute rock star, it's 12 months from now. How many more millions do you think will drive in revenue? He said, we'll likely drive another 10 million in revenue. So I said, okay, that sounds meaningful. Before I make judgment, tell me what your gross margin is. He said 40%. So the whole room laughs, right? Well, that's $4 million. How much is this new person going to cost? He said, well, Mark, it's a base salary of $400,000. What I was paying the other guy, all in with bonus, plus probably cost me 50% in bonus, so total is $600,000. So wait a minute, you're going to have an additional $10 million, and 40% gross margin. That's $4 million in extra gross profit, and it cost you $600,000, $200,000 more than you were paying before. So what's the challenge? Challenge is in month 1, no impact. Month 2, no impact. Month 3, no impact. Probably month 4, maybe month 5. By month 6, if I got the right person, now we're beginning feeling it 7, 8, and finally by 10, by the end of the year, I've gotten there. So the challenge for people is, wow, I got to pay Kurt, the search firm. That's going to cost me a couple of bucks. And then it might create some disruption in my organization because, oh my God, you let that person go and they've been with the company for years. What did they do wrong? And you got to deal with that. Or your friends, your kids go to the same school together, your spouses hang out together, you belong to the same country club. Whatever your story is, everybody's got one. But it takes courage to look at that and make the decision to upgrade your team. Companies that do, and I'll make this statement, I'll stop on this topic. Those that do this, that actually do this, if we look at our entire book of business, of any of our clients that have sold for between $100 million and $1 billion, all of them upgraded their leadership team at least twice along that journey to make that happen, because the people at 40 million are probably not the same people at 100. They're definitely not the same people at 200. They're definitely not the same people at 750 million.
No question. I love the example. I'll take it a step further. We often have a similar conversation, and the conversation goes exactly like that. How can I afford this? And at the end of the year, it's usually how could I afford not to do this if with the right hire. The other piece is, even if revenue doesn't go up for the right operator, which you and I both work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are more of the visionary mindset that don't have the strong operational integrator, to use the EOS language, that a strong operator can put a lot of money to the bottom line by recognizing a lot of those inefficiencies we talked about when we talked about 2020. If I can get a shave 5 or 10 points of margin out of the company, I can put a lot of money to the bottom line and pay for myself really darn quick.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
All right, Mark, we talked about earlier about the crap show that is 2020. I'm a silver lining guy. You talk a lot about the positives that are coming out of 2020. Give us a few that you haven't mentioned before that you see or expect to see or hope to see coming out of 2020.
Well, I think that people have had the opportunity to upgrade their teams because they may have been forced to. They had the opportunity to realign the organization's expenses. They had the opportunity to eliminate unprofitable customers. They had the opportunity to create new supply relationships that they may not have had before because they were forced to. They had the opportunity to reduce costs on the supply side, and they probably learned how to do business differently. For example, this work from home concept, imagine being in the commercial real estate business today. Many firms have expressed that it's good for their employees to have the option to work from home. We don't need as big a real estate footprint anymore. And one of the top 3 biggest costs for firms are the real estate. So another way to drive costs down for a business. So really, it's about figuring out a new way to run their business. People talked about the new normal for a lot at the beginning. Well, I think we're beyond the new normal. This is what we do now in the environment that we live in today, and there'll be permanent changes as a result of this.
You mentioned so many positives, and like you said, just this conversation right here that we're having, we can have it via Zoom, and it's okay. We've done a lot of virtual work in our past, but now it's accepted to have conversations with you in Miami here this morning, and this afternoon I'll be meeting with somebody on the West Coast. And
to that point, let me make one more comment. Right, for sales organizations, they felt you need to fly to wherever to go make the sale. Well, everybody has learned how to make the sale via Zoom now, as opposed to having to fly. Man, look at the impact that it's had on organizations' travel costs, air, hotels, meals, Ubers, all that cost that now doesn't exist anymore, or at least for now.
Yeah, and I think that's got a good shot at going forward, especially for folks like you and I who have clients all over the country. We want to visit with them. We no longer have to get on a plane and go to see the client in Montreal. We can have a face-to-face through technology. So, hey, I've got one more very important question for you, and then we'll work towards wrapping up. And that is, Mark, tell us a little bit more about yourself, something we wouldn't find out from looking at your LinkedIn profile.
I grew up in Canada, and my first language is Spanish. My mom was from Mexico City, y en nuestra casa nada más hablábamos español. Toda la vida nunca he hablado con mi mamá en inglés. So translation is I've never spoken to my mom in English. That was the language we spoke at home. My mom required me and my 2 brothers to win at everything we did. She was very tough. She was the captain of military in her own mind. Well, at least she was in our home. And so we played, me and my 2 brothers, piano competitively for years, which is quite an interesting sport, playing piano competitively. And then we also played tennis competitively. And my mom instilled that in us, that everything we did, it had to be our best. And I like to play sports. I like to do a lot of things in my life, and I like to have fun. I love to have fun, and I have the most fun when I win. So I've learned to compete, and I love to win.
Well, I got some great nuggets there. I appreciate that. What I do also do know from your LinkedIn is that you have competed in many Ironman triathlons, and you've got a shirt to prove it there. And so you can see that competitive drive and spirit and tenacity with all that. So I appreciate you sharing that. So, Mark, as we wrap up, anything else you'd like to add that we maybe haven't covered today or to emphasize?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing that I've spent a lot of time discussing with our coaches and our clients around the world. As you think about your 2021 plan, I would encourage each firm to do a sensitivity analysis on what levers, if you strip apart the most impactful levers in your business, just pick one. And if you were able to move that one lever by X, in some businesses it is one extra dollar of revenue per hour. As an example, what impact does that have for every dollar? What if I was able to move it $2 or $3? Or what if I was able to sell 1% more to each of my clients on an average basis? What impact does that have on my model? So it's really stripping out. Those are just a couple examples, but there are many examples. Stripping out and isolating one lever at a time and showing the impact, because all levers don't play equally. Some of them have a massive impact and can be quite easy to do. Other levers that many organizations chase may not have a massive impact and might be really hard to implement. So typically, I like to take each of the levers, do a sensitivity analysis, which is typically 1 page per lever, and show the impact on EBITDA by playing with that one lever and showing the movement on that, on what happens. And I'll give you one more example. There's one of our clients in IT services, or IT consulting. In the IT consulting business, there's really only 3 levers that drive it. One of them is price, the hourly price that you charge your clients. The second one is utilization of your consultants, because you could have your consultants only utilized at 70, 75, or 80%. Well, what impact does it have if they're running at 83 or 85%? And then there's the one, well, I got junior consultants and senior consultants, and too many organizations, the senior consultants cost a lot more. So it negatively impacts the model, and the senior consultants end up doing work that the juniors could do. So then if you isolate these 3 levers and you show the impact of moving 1% on any one of them, or just changing the mix, if we're talking about consultants, or moving the utilization, or maybe a 1 or 2 or 5% increase in price, the impact, Kurt, is really meaningful. I find too many organizations either don't know how to do this, don't have the discipline to do this, but really, when I push them on this, they don't really understand it. They can figure it out when you walk them there, but they end up chasing what they think they ought to chase, as opposed to what's going to give them the biggest bang for the effort.
Well, it takes what are simple to you but complicated to others questions, challenging questions, to open those types of things up. So I can't speak enough to what you guys do for your clients and our clients through your coaching calls and coaching work. So thank you for what you guys are doing. And back to our when we started this, thanks for all you're doing for the CEO community across the globe. You guys are a beacon of light for many during these dark days of 2020. Keep up the great work. And thank you for joining me today, Mark.
Well, Kurt, thank you for having me. And thank you for all the great work that you do for so many of our clients. You're really making a difference, and I love it. The feedback is always very good. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
It warms my heart. Hey, all of you out there, please, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with another edition of Let's Go. My guest is going to be Mark Winters, who's co-author of one of my favorite business books, Rocket Fuel. We'll be talking a lot about visionaries and integrators and what I like to call operating partners, and why people like me need a very strong integrator operating partner to make me very much more successful, to help manage my people, hold them accountable, and get stuff done. So super excited about that. Until next week, no excuses, and let's go.